Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. This is the very first week of July, so let me welcome you all. I don't know how you're doing, but I have just finished my first battle of COVID in the last 3 years. So I'm pretty proud of myself. And tonight, as your host, Shero Chow, I'm the G100 Global Networking Hong Kong chairlady. Welcome if this is the first time you're joining us. And if it's not, then big welcome again for tuning in. This is a podcast from zero to Shero, featuring extraordinary stories and tools of everyday women reinventing their lives, businesses, and relationships. And I am a joy and self leadership coach who is now based in Hong Kong. I boost confidence in self leadership and joy for children and women for life. And I'm also a global speaker, free time Amazon bestselling author, law of attraction course creator, and a very humble servant. My main goal is really to boost the mental health and self leadership for children and women. And what is G100, you wonder? G100 is an action and think tank of 100 eminent global champions and leaders working across agendas, the SDG goals like peace, equality, prosperity, and of course, our favorite goal, number 5, which is gender equality. And today we have a very jam packed panel, which is a little unusual because I usually interview one Shero at a time. But today, this episode came about because of one article that I read from MIT. And it talks about the gender gap in STEM. And if you allow me, let me quote. Despite progress in gender equity and growing interests over the last decade in computer science, engineering, math, and statistics among both men and women, the underrepresentation of women in the science, tech, engineering, and mathematics, which is STEM, in these fields continues to persist. In 2023, the gender gap in STEM remains significant, with women making up only 28% of STEM workforce. And the figure stands around 24% in the States, 17% in the EU, and 16% in Japan, and only 14% in India. And so when I read that, I just thought, my God, I have these wonderful friends, which who I'm going to introduce one by one. I have to get them on our episode, and not only do we showcase them as our role models, because one of the problems of this big inadequacy or this huge gap is about the lack of role model. Not only do I want to show them to all of you, I also want all the young women and girls to listen to the stories and just to know, to expect, just like them, if they can overcome their obstacles, then you can also do the same. You're flying colors. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on our first guest, which is Dr. Janice Ferreira Samani. She is the CEO of SG, which is an award-winning digital technological firm, and she's a transformative leader, a global speaker, and also an engineering and business professor. So, Janice, how are you? Looking good, huh?
I am fantastic. Thank you so very much for this opportunity. And I'm having a bit of technical difficulty, so bear with me. I am
No,
in
no
Silicon
problem.
Valley, so it's quite a pleasure to be with you halfway across the world. It's
Yes,
been a while
yes.
since we've seen one another. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, now I'm going to put you aside for a little while. And now I'm going to introduce our second guest, and that would be Mani. Mani Tazia. She is a speaker, a positive psychology practitioner, free time Amazon bestselling author, advisor for the Canadian Ministry of Education, and she's a leadership specialist. Hi, Mani.
Hi, Shirley. So nice to see you, and such a pleasure to be speaking with you in the panel today.
And can you tell the audience where you're tuning in from?
Oh yes, I'm tuning in from Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada. So it's so great to be participating in the panel with participants from all over the world.
Nice and breezy there, huh? Not as steamy and hot in Hong Kong, right?
Well, it's actually about 30 degrees today, so we have heat.
Oh,
It's
wow.
summer here too, but you probably have it much warmer than we do for sure.
Oh yeah, it's totally a steamer here in Hong Kong. And to reiterate this hot and steamy weather, I brought in a Hong Kong guest, and let me just show her real quick. And then I'm also going to add Janice back into the picture. And now we have Kate. Kate is a new buddy of mine, or a mentor, actually, an idol of mine. She is in the science and what do you call it, innovation, biotech field. And she founded DK Aromatherapy and also Kate Like Technology a few years ago. And she invented the aroma pot. Okay. She's also an author and a Hong Kong Tech 300 program judge. She has so many accolades. There is no space. Seriously, there is no space. There is a word limit. Okay, so I can only put one of them in here, and that is she was the awardee for the Power of Role Models Top 100 Outstanding Chinese Awardee. Can you say hi to our audience, Kate?
Hi everyone, nice to meet you guys. It's my honor to be a panel today. I'm from Hong Kong. Today is also 30 degrees, I think more than that.
It feels like 40. I swear.
Yeah.
Okay, now, so the way we roll is that I have some set questions for each panelist, and they're going to take turns answering. But towards the end of it, I'm sure we can open everything for discussion. So let me just start with the first question. What were you guys like when you were girls and teenagers? So why don't I ask Janice first?
Sure. You put me in the hot seat first, eh?
Yeah.
As a young girl, I was very curious. I was very interested in learning, wanting to know the why without asking the why, because I was brought up in a very conservative home. So it wasn't an option to really ask why. But that led me, I believe, to dive in deep independently and to have a sense of um, understanding about various tools and various things that I was curious about. So whether it be how to make something in the kitchen because my grandmother was preparing or my mom, or whether it be out in the garage with my dad and looking at what he was building, because my father was a robotics engineer before robotics engineering was a thing, if you will. And so back in the 60s and the 70s, so he actually contributed to the first mobile robot. So I think I was extremely curious. I think if I was to capsulize it into one word, I may circle back to me, but curiosity comes forward for me.
Wow. Okay, so when you asked questions, usually did you get shut down or encouraged?
Interesting that you would ask that. It was more of diverted. It wasn't so much a response directly to my question, but it was more of, it's like, why is she asking that? She doesn't have to think that deeply or that heavy or intensely, if you will. Keep in mind, I'm probably, I'm your senior, my friend. So, it wasn't that we were allowed to ask questions that way. But I think as I got older and I started circling back to my family, questions were answered then because they didn't go away.
Yeah, persistence, right? How about
Persistent.
you? Yeah, how about you, Mani? Tell us about your childhood.
As a child, just as a preface to my response, I read some research on childhood. And I say this to my students all the time. If you're struggling in finding out what your passion or purpose is, think back to what you enjoyed doing in your childhood, because that will give you clues. And for me, as a child, what's interesting is I loved doing the same things as a child that I love doing now. As a child, I loved reading, I loved my books, and I loved writing. I had a chalkboard, and I used to arrange my stuffed animals and dolls. As a little girl, everybody gave me dolls. And I hated dolls. I was born in 71, and that's what little girls were supposed to play with Barbies. And I didn't like Barbies. I had no interest in Barbie whatsoever, other than to arrange the Barbies in a little circle and to teach Barbie. And I also liked performing. So it's interesting that the same things I like to do in my childhood, I like to do now. And I was also curious. And what was interesting, I think I was very blessed to grow up in the home that I grew up, because my mom was light years ahead in terms of being a working mom. Most moms back then stayed home, and my mom worked, and that was very different. And my dad, it was really a privilege to be his daughter, because I had an older brother, mostly male cousins, grew up in a home with mostly boys in a neighborhood full of little boys. And it would be so easy to get lost in that. But my dad taught me that I could compete with the boys, that I should compete with the boys, and that I could win. And because he had that belief in me, I was able to cultivate a belief in myself and had a confidence that I think not a lot of other little girls did, because you're kind of taught to be sugar and spice and everything nice and play with your dolls, and good girls, just are kind of in the background. But I think because my dad always promoted that I had a voice and I should use it, and I saw my mom working, that really catapulted me into an amazing life. So I think I have my parents to thank, actually.
I so agree with that. I also, we shared a little commonality there. I was surrounded with boys, or maybe because I wasn't interested with playing with girls, or all I saw was boys, right? But then again, yeah, if someone encouraged you that you're not really intellectually or even physically that different from the boys, you can actually win, right, and compete with them. That is really a great setup, right? Mentally speaking. Wow, what a lucky girl you were. So, how about Kate? What
Hi.
was your childhood like?
So my childhood is very gentle that I just follow with my dad and mom. So my dad and mom is working at home. So they are tailor. So I'm very lucky enough to have them grow with me together. And then when I'm kids, or like in a teenager, I really love to go to some Po. I don't know whether you guys in Hong Kong that is a street. It's full of technology. Since I'm teenager, normally girls they go to shopping mall, they buy cosmetics stuff. Like I love to go to see technology things. So when I grow up at a very young age, I already play with the computers, and then I really love uh, to commit myself to new technology. So since I'm in a young age, so I grow up with with my brother. My brother will bring the computer home with all the games, and then I play with him, and then I really like into new technology that can improve our life in certain way. But when I'm kids, it's like very curious that I start to write my program when I'm in primary school. So
Wow.
I think girls they don't do this, right? So but I really love it.
I love, 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 love every one of your stories. Well, in my case, it was just skateboards and climbing a lot of trees and watching people and examining, okay, who is fighting with whom and what he said to the other guy. Okay, how am I going to, negotiate with them? Blah, blah, blah. It was more like people. So it's very interesting. This brings up a very important point, I think, for parents. And let's don't underestimate the first few years. What kind of games and and the way you led, right, or lead your children in observing the world, that can usually really shape their outlook, right, of who they are in the formative years. So moving on, let's go to our second question. So when you reach your adulthood, your young adulthood, okay, say before the age of 35, what happened? What kind of career paths or education did you go after? So this time, let's go backwards a little bit. Let's start with Kate.
Yes. So when I'm getting older, so my life want to create something meaningful. And then very interesting that I run into aromatherapy business where it's really elegant for me. I love elegancy. I love pretty. thing is nice, and then at the same time it's like very therapeutic. So with the night sense, and people get the relaxation feeling, or like how people are sleeping better. So and then slowly I get into hypnotherapy, and then I also being the tutor, and then I teach hypnotherapists, and I get the international certification. So through this transition time from aromatherapy, at the same time I learn psychology things, then I feel really passionate about human mindset. So when we understand what we want, and then we can create our universe. I think this is like fascinating for me, that no matter what we experience, we can transform the world by what you think, and then to make it happen with what you want to be. So I think the will is very important. So just think what you want. I think we can create anything. I believe everything can be possible.
Okay, fascinating. When you said you got into aromatherapy and hypnotherapy, was it really just you alone stumbling upon that, or there were maybe some mentors along the way,
No
or
mentor for me. I think I walk along by myself, and then that's I just follow my interest, especially when I'm kids. I really love art, and then I don't have chance to study art since because my secondary school doesn't have art. So in when I
ah,
apply for university, it's not possible because I didn't have that in my form 7 at that time. So I'm finding different way to search my life, not only from what I study, because I study maritime study, which is totally irrelevant what I'm doing. But I think
maritime studies.
yeah, I think many people they graduate from what they are not going to do, right? But I think that's very interesting for me, that I found a way that I love the senses, and then also psychology things is very attractive for me to understand how to communicate with people, as well as how people communicate themselves. So that's how
Mm,
we talk about childhood, right? So most of my patient, I always talk to them, my student, my patient, I childhood issue. Everything is about childhood. So no matter how traumatic that your experience is all about childhood. That's what I think most of the time, like more than 90%. But they are very focusing on the now, the what they are suffering in the break situation. So when we go back, then maybe it's just a tiny thing that you haven't solved, and then you solve it. Then
mm.
that's what I think from my experience, and then what I can see all my student and my patient have a very amazing journey through that exploration, self-awareness.
Awesome, awesome, Kate. How about you, Mani?
Hi there. So, in terms of when I think back to that point in time, I think you were asking in our 30s when we were just kind of starting out.
20s and
Um,
yeah.
30s and 40s. That was a very interesting time. I had my daughter at 32. So I would say that as a woman trying to, at that age, you have a new baby and you're trying to negotiate your personal life and your professional life. It's for many women, I think, we try to be women and trying to be superwoman can get super tiring. So what I say to women when they ask me, because I've done a lot in my career path, is you can have it all, but it's difficult. You can't have it all at the same time. So I think it's understanding each life stage. So when you're in your 20s, you can focus on yourself, right? Before you're married and you're settled down and you have children, it's all about you. And I say to people all the time, when you're a parent, it involves self-sacrifice. It really is the ability to put your child's needs ahead of your own. And it doesn't mean, it's like when you're on an airplane, you put your mask on first before you assist other passengers. So you have to take care of yourself so you can take care of your child. But being a parent is a locked in 20-year commitment, and it's not for everybody. And when you are a parent, and I've loved parenting, it's when your children are very young, it's very hard to do the extra with your career. Once they get a little bit older, then you have more time. So I'm at a point in my journey where, I've launched my daughter. She's in university. She's an adult. I have all kinds of time back. But I think it's just being aware that we have to be gentle with ourselves as women and trying to do everything is really gonna wear us down. In terms of education that I've had that's really supported me, I think my biggest learnings would be through my master's degree in leadership studies and studying positive psychology, which is the science of well-being and flourishing. And what positive psychology taught me was all about how to go about trying to create the very best conditions for ourselves as people, and then being able to create the best conditions for the people around us. So I would say it's really leaning into research and information that's going to help you at whatever life stage you're at, leaning into that. So, if you're at midlife, when I was 45, I did what all people do at midlife. I did a midlife review. That's right in research, that when we get to midlife, we look at where we are in our lives as compared to where we would have hoped to have been. And for a lot of women, they're right where they want to be. But for some women, they're not where they want to be. And they get really scared because they feel like they're halfway to dead, and that the universe is like grabbing them by the lapels, as Dr. Brene Brown says, and says, hey, I'm not messing around. Get it together. What do you want to do? What are your dreams and hopes for yourself? So at midlife, I think we really need to be cognizant of the fact that we do that midlife review. We do take stock of where we are in our lives and what is the dream that we have for ourselves? What are our hopes? And it's never too late to live the life that we want. I forget the name of the woman that won the Oscar. You ladies might remember. And when she held up the Oscar.
Michelle Yeoh.
Yes, thank you. What did she say, right? She said, and for anybody that ever told you, you're not too old and it's not too late. So I think those are wise words. And I think as women, we just have to be patient with ourselves and gentle with ourselves.
Great. Now, you said you had your child when you were 32, right? So you kind of took leadership and positive psychology in college as your master's. Am I right? If I
Yes.
got it right.
Yeah, I took leadership and did my master's in leadership. And then after I did leadership, I realized that leadership was creating conditions for people to flourish. And then I did a certification in positive psychology.
What inspired you to go into leadership in the first place?
Because I was in a leadership role and I'm a lifelong learner and curious, I felt like I needed to know more. And what I discovered is to lead others, we have to be able to lead from the inside out. We have to understand ourselves. We have to know ourselves and grow ourselves. We have to understand how, as leaders, we contribute to relationships and how we contaminate relationships. And we grow up with this golden rule, which is treat other people the way that they want to be treated. What they should have said is treat other people the way they want to be treated, right? Because the way you want to be treated and the way I want to be treated might not be the same. Everybody wants respect and kindness. That goes without say. But in terms of the work world and how people thrive in the workplace, that could look very, very different. Some people need structure and need to be planned and prepared. Other people need research and facts and data. Other people, it's relationships first. Other people need action and variety in an autonomous environment. So I think to lead others, we need to understand our own character strengths as leaders. So how we show up as leaders and how we impact others, and then trying to create the very best conditions for the people that we lead. And we lead wherever we are. As women, we lead our households, right? We're leaders in our families. We're leaders wherever we are. We're in a position to lead. So that's really what inspired me to embark, I think, in continued learnings in leadership.
It's great. So many nuggets there. One quick question, and then I will go to Janice. When you took that leadership course in college, was it mainly male students, or it was kind of half and half?
I would say that I think I'm just trying to think back. I think it was probably half and half. I think that what's interesting is, the research is showing that men still, out earn women. We know that.
Yeah,
that's factual.
Yeah.
And, you know, as a woman, I think probably many of us feel this way. I think it was Amal Clooney who said, when you hold back women, you're holding back half of every country in the world. And we have to shrink that, we want to shrink that gender gap. Hillary Rodham Clinton said with the United States, she was married to Bill Clinton and the Secretary of State. She said that women's rights are human rights and human rights are women's rights. So I think as a panel full of women, no doubt we're all very passionate in trying to do our part in shrinking the gender gap.
Thank you, Marnie. So, Shanice, tell us about you.
Parity. Parity. So, let's see. What about me? It's interesting because I had slightly a different path. I didn't share that much about my childhood, but in regard to the curiosity, I took, which will loop into my adulthood because we're laying down a foundation, right? Was taking computer classes when they said, anyone interested in this thing called programming? And I said, why not? Because that really fed into my curiosity, right? So I got on the bus after school and I was the only girl amongst 5 students that wanted to continue their education. So that, in addition, laid down this lifelong passion of learning because it was put in front of me and I grasped onto it. So I learned how to program in COBOL and Fortran at the age of 12, 13. So with that said, moving into adulthood, when it came time for me to study at Berkeley and I was studying economics and ended up taking these courses, all of this is a snowball, right? So in taking these courses and we were on mainframe computers and I just latched onto it and started getting into the system and doing the work that needed to be done. It was as though many people, including instructors, were taken back by it because it was something that was so normal for me. It wasn't as though I was afraid or challenged to the point where I was reluctant to touch the keyboard and to engage, but it was more of, this is an opportunity that I knew that I needed to succeed. So just through that, I continued in my career and taking on and latching on to various opportunities. I joined professional organizations, the American Association for Planners, which were engineers and urban and city and regional planners. And so that gave me a lot of latitude in my leadership development because here I was not quite 20 and I was speaking on national stages, very quiet, but still speaking, because I knew what I knew. And that supported me in my professional development and being able to stand in my professionalism and stand into who I was as a young person. So when I started my family in mid-20s, after grad school, it wasn't a matter of me not continuing in my education or not continuing to apply what I've learned. And I had to step back and say, what is the best fit for me? And how does this all work together? Because I've studied so diligently in going to grad school, and Berkeley is not the easiest university to, number one, to be a woman, and number two, to be in a field where it was predominantly men. So I was the only girl in many of my engineering courses and my city and regional planning classes, one of a handful. So it was taking on those challenges and knowing that I was going to continue to flourish through in developing and having it all. I believed in having it all. I didn't believe, I feel as though, and I still do to this point, it's more of the sizes of the pieces that come together with this beautiful art form we call life actually expand and contract as we grow and go through life. And so I do believe in having it all, because I truly feel as though I have been very, very fortunate and blessed in that construct. But I think I answered your question. I believe that if a woman can put her mind to it, a woman can achieve it. There is no way that resilience and that fortitude and the aptitude of being able to be that flexible individual to make it work, it doesn't happen. So that's my take.
I love the mosaic of life. I feel like that should be like a Pink Floyd kind of song title.
Maybe I should make a T-shirt, "The Mosaic
Yeah.
of Life."
Well, that's a yeah bumper sticker or something like that,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay, thank you, my dear. So let's go on to our third question. Um, what are the top three go-to tools or skills that have been helping you sail through all kinds of career and personal seas, and also that you believe women must hone, particularly young women, if they were to thrive in STEM or STEAM or whatever, politics, leadership roles, they must really boost in order to overcome all the challenges that are going to face them. So I'm going to start with, let's go backwards this time. We will go to Shanice, and then we go to Kate, and then we'll go to Money.
Great. Let's see. What do I say? I believe that one has to have a willingness of mindset. You have to have the aptitude to be able to forego and to persevere through all obstacles. When you're told no or not seen as that individual that could actually be in a particular role or take on a particular job, it's like, why not? Remember in the beginning, I was saying I had questions. So it's a matter of why not. And although you may not verbalize the why not, it's as though be present, be aware of the environment and where there's an opportunity. I have a slogan that I say, seize the opportunity. Also, it's a matter of having that open gate of willingness to take on those challenges because I ran for politics. I mean, I ran for my small city and it was here I am, a young woman with a family, and it was not seen as nomenclature to be a political figure. You know, you should be at home with your kids and that sort of thing. But yet I had started my own business because I knew that with my education and everything that I had to bring to the table, it was not for me to be stealth or to just be part of the PTA. It's not a just, but it's an and. So I really believe that having that willingness and that aptitude, knowing that you have pleasures and passion and what is going to fulfill you. And I was kicking back. I have to just tell this real quick tweet that when my children were small, and I thought, gee whiz, what I know there's more to life than this. I know that I'm volunteering at school. I know that my children are happy. My home is cared for. I'm cared for. My husband's being cared for. I thought, well, but there's more to life than this. So I have my own passions, my own sense of fulfillment. So I believe that it's very important to be able to overcome political opinion, to know that one has to forge forward in whatever her passion is. I think that that is foremost. If you need a mentor or a guide, a support, and also have that champion, have those people that do get to know you. I know sometimes we're maybe somewhat quiet or not being open with others, but allowing yourself to be vulnerable in some regard so people can get to know you, so they can be your champion, to talk about you when you're not in the room, to allow for who you are and your intellect and your capabilities to be known by others. So I think that those are always important, and to cultivate and to put a lot of emphasis on that resilience and the creativities that you have and the adaptability that we have as women. I think that that is far surpasses, again, that mosaic.
This mosaic is sounding prettier and prettier. Yeah, resilience, every bit of it, and that adaptability, which is also agility, isn't it? Right?
Absolutely. That's being transformative. It's not transformation. I really put emphasis, which my book is coming
Mm.
out soon, on being a transformative leader. So it starts from within. And that curiosity and that mindset and that flexibility and the agility all come into this mosaic of life in which we can actually transform ourselves, and then we can transform the world and the environment around us.
How about you, Kate? Your top three go-to tools and skills that women, young women particularly, must have.
So I think the first one is like you're confident, right? So the confidence come with the experience too. So the experience when you grow up, how people look at you and how you look into yourself. So through the life, that is a lot of challenge. So once we're facing the challenge, that I would like to share my a little bit story of my life that I have experienced something that kind of quite tough that I have experienced my shop closing after 15 years in a very nice area. For me, it's like I put all my heart into the business and then I need to close that shop. I feel really hurt. At that time, I need to embrace my pain. So through the challenge to see what I can do better. But at the same time, I'm separate with my 8 years boyfriend. So that you can imagine. So like business wise, it's difficult, and then the love of wise is also facing some difficult time. And just not long, around 2 months later, my mom passed away with cancer. So with everything like happened so short period of time that all I can look at my life, I think is to embrace what we are happening and then look at what I can learn and transform. So through the time that when before my mom passed away, I look at the auntie which is opposite my mom that she is like very uncomfortable yelling all the time. Then when I look at her, so I'm thinking what will I be when I like her age. So I'm the youngest, I'm single, I have no kids, and then my brother have no kids, my sister is in New York, so my niece is already grow up, so it's too far to help me though. I'm just thinking that whether I'm the last one to die at the family and then no one will come and see me. And then I'm like hitting my head that oh, you are teaching psychology. What what else that you can think of more positive things, right? So, but I think that is the time that give myself to self-aware. I think this is like a magic moment because I changed my next question is how will I die? And then at the time that when in the hospital you go every day that you see people dying every day. And then I tell myself that I want to smile at the time when I'm passing away. So everyone will die anyway. I don't know when, but at that time, I have very strong vision, passion that I would like to survive. Not only survive, I would like to experience and embrace every single seconds and moments in my life to create something meaningful. So through that time that I already run my business for a period of time, and it happened like 6 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, and then I changed my mindset to run a charity event. I write my book at that time, and after that, I I found out that for charity it's so difficult. I would like to run a gala dinner, and then it doesn't succeed at that time, and then it also made me embrace the failure of that my vision that I want to create certain meaningful into more meaningful is to create an ESG project with social impact. So now, after since I'm kids, I love to uh, go to the technology place to play with the computers and the new technology. And now I transform my business from aromatherapy into biotech business with R&D. So actually, aromatherapy is also biotech, right? But maybe we don't think at the same way. But that's how I transform my vision, and then I change my company, become a technology company with biotechnology, innovation, nanotechnology, as well as with social impact, ESG ecosystem. So without that kind of like rough ruffle. I don't think that I can create that kind of amazing project of social impact, helping the well underprivileged women. And then I'm like out loud to ask people to help me. Why don't you help me to earn money and to help people? Why not? Right? I think that is very interesting for the mindset changing for the young generation. I mentor a lot of mentee like the intern, and then I always tell them, so why people will help you? what do you want to do, so you can stand from their point of view, and then when you're doing business, you're making money, help them make money. When you are helping the underprivileged women, but actually what they want, and then you understand what they want, and then you ask yourself what makes you happy too, so not make yourself suffer and then to help other people. I think that should be win-win-win situation. That's why I'm creating a very new concept of a ecosystem with the social impact revenue model for hotel. So this is how I transform my life, that I would like to share to the world, everyone. As a woman, as an Asian woman, actually, I don't feel any under privilege as my gender, as my age, as my where I locate. I'm lucky enough. I'm in Hong Kong, I think. But also, this is what how you look into yourself with that gratitude. So every morning, I will tell myself, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Right. So when you see someone, they help you, the driver, the minibus driver, I say thank you every day. So thank you, everyone. Thank you yourself to embrace the difficulty, and then when you wake up, you have your passion to live, to experience, to create a life. If you find that as a young age, congratulations, then you find that what you want. So I think it's very important to find your passion. That I really agree what you just said, and then you find the way to come across the obstacle that what you experience, everyone will experience anyway. So if you just have good thing happen, that is so dangerous. I think that you need to have up and down, and
Yeah.
then to transform it, and then embrace it and feel the gratitude, then bingo, your life will be wonderful. That's what I think.
Yeah, I love so much of what you shared, but there were a couple of points that really stood out, Kate. The first thing is that if we look at ourselves as women, if we focus on the stats are not looking good right now. But we can also say, okay, so let's get to work. Let's find 1,000, 2,000, 10,000, 100,000 ways to make sure we are catching up. We are manifesting the kind of progress we actually want to see, step by step, and just focus on what needs to be done. And like you so eloquently put it, say thank you every time there is any kind of progress, there is any kind of recognition, right? So that means that we are not playing victim, and we are playing winners. We're playing victory, right? And that I want to segue into money. So with this kind of gender gap, whether it is a pay gap, whether it is a loan getting gap, or it is like in the movie, I keep forgetting. Maybe Janice, you can help me. The movie about in Hollywood about this a couple of African American women in NASA. They were back in. Let me open your mic.
Hidden
In
Figures,
yeah,
and
yeah,
they were engineers and actually brought back the Apollo. Yes.
exactly. The facilities weren't even there for them to go pee, right? They had to like beg for the leader to address that problem. So, what can we teach our young women? Because they are being encouraged to go into STEM.
Yes.
Going into STEM is not a problem. Staying in STEM is what we need to focus on. So, money. Ooh, okay, sorry.
I would say, I think Dr. Janice probably knows the intricacies of STEM much better than I do, but just from a female lens, it's been my experience that when you're in a male-dominated environment, that it's being assertive and it's standing up for yourself and it's, pulling up a seat to the table and participating and having a voice and using your voice and asking for what you need, in any kind of environment. And like I said, being assertive, I feel, I want, I need, not shrinking down, not letting anybody intimidate you. You have a right to be there. And so I think confidence is a big piece. And I think also boundaries. And, so if you're in an environment, we all deserve, psychological safety in the workplace, In Canada, we have occupational health and safety measures that says we all deserve a safe workplace. And safe means not overstepping boundaries, not yelling at somebody, not demeaning somebody, not patronizing somebody. And when somebody does that, when somebody oversteps that boundary, calling that out. I'm uncomfortable with the way that you just spoke to me. I feel that you're talking down to me. Please don't do that. So I think it's really important to be assertive and to have those boundaries, and also to have an understanding that in I think any new position, I've started a new position, and at the beginning, it's earning credibility because you're in a new environment and people don't know you. And when you're starting something new, working really, really hard and being resilient, because it's not if something is going to go wrong, it's kind of when something's going to go wrong, but it's that ability to push through things when things are tough. And so often I think, when I taught at the college, people would say to me, oh, young girls in particular, I taught in the International School of Business, and they would look at me and they'd go, wow, you've done so much. But I didn't start out where I am. I didn't start out as a best-selling author. I didn't start out with a master's degree. We can have it all. I agree with Dr. Janice, but we have to realize that, it takes time. We don't start out, with a master's or a PhD. We grow into these things, and our studies take time. Our work takes time. And so I would say to young women, figure out what your ikigai is, your purpose and your passion and your reason for being, and lean into that. Go for it.
Yeah, lean into it, right? Like the CEO, ex-CEO. Is she an ex-CEO now? Oh
Shero
gosh.
Sandberg?
Yes, Shero. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, those are
She
looking for.
the ex-CEO, right? Yeah, just lean into it. And in our Canfield success principles world, we call it 5% every day. Even 5% sometimes is too many. If you are to be realistic, because I look at my 5% and say, oh my God, it's like, well, 0.5%. And 0.5% are not giving up sometimes. We forget not giving up.
Right.
Sometimes staying exactly where you are, but staying calm, right?
Right.
And like you put it so very importantly, all of you mentioned something. Not only being optimistic and not losing your bearing when things are going crazy around you, but seriously, I mean, if you think of it like a Michelle Yeoh, right? Everyone's that crazy movie is too long to tell everything every now or everything at once or whatever. When the world is whirling around you, if you can actually stay still and not lose your bearing, my God, that's a win right there,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Right? And if you need to shed a few tears and throw a few things on the floor, do it, man. Sometimes,
Truly.
right?
Truly.
Talk about EQ, emotional management, right? Stress management. Our emotions are not bad or good necessarily. It's all information. So now we have, I feel like I can do another 10 hours with you guys, but let's go on to our fourth question. I am sure our audience are already getting a whole lot of wisdom from you all. Our fourth question, where is it? Let me dig it out. Is yeah, we were going through our fourth question. Now, can you tell me, in your experience, particularly in biotech, right, or in politics, um, and even in academia, have you encountered? We were talking about being assertive and really upholding our own rights and letting people know that sometimes you're stepping over my boundary. Have you ever encountered anything like a sexual harassment, or you know that you're underpaid compared to a male colleague? What have you had any experiences like that? What did you do? Or if your mentees come to you with situations like this, what would you advise them? Okay, open mic. Anyone?
I'll jump in. I'm leaning in. Uh, absolutely. Absolutely. Microaggressions, let's just call the elephant in the room. Microaggressions are rampant even in this 21st century. Microaggressions, for those that may not be familiar with the term, when you say something that's rather cheeky. What was said to me was when I went into my first career, it was maybe my first or second, a job, and it was said, "Oh, well, how are your children doing?"
Mm.
That's a huge microaggression because here I was, a young woman, and I had young children. And of course, I was guilty, the air quotes guilty, because I wasn't at home with them. And yet I was forging my career forward, right? And I was an engineer. And the kick is that I was brought in as a double engineer, the only one in the firm that was a double engineer. So I brought PCS to San Francisco, one of a group of people. But that was my job, was to bring the personal computer, which is now called the cell phone, into San Francisco. So all of that to say, I was working with unsaid known company, as well as when the baby bells, the entire system was breaking down here in the United States. So when I was brought in, here I am thinking, wow, what an honor, what a privilege. I get to put on my hard hat and then sit at the CEO table as well with the neurologists and the other engineers and really hash this thing out. And then I get a comment, well, how are your children? And I'm like, where is all of this coming from? Look at me as this intellectual, this individual that's bringing resources to the table to make this project function, go well, be successful. And what it is today, everybody has a cell phone in their hand. But it's interesting that I had to go through that microaggression, and it persists to happen. Bringing it into the 21st century, I recently attended a conference, and a gentleman said to me, it was interesting. I met someone and he says, well, I want you to meet the CEO of this company. He has this really cool technology, because I do a lot of innovation and cutting edge technology development and that sort of thing. So he says, I really want you to meet this guy. He was so excited about me meeting him. And I said, of course, I'd love to meet him. And he said, well, let me try to explain this simply to you. I said, excuse me. I had to give him my dossier in short order. Basically, this is who I am. This is my background. I don't need to be spoken down to in that way. This somewhat speaks to the comment that was made earlier. It's not so much putting my boundary out there or saying you're not you're entering sacred space, but it's to say respect me as your equal, if not more so, because I have the skill set or I wouldn't be in this place. And it's not a matter of coming up to the table, it's a matter of being able to make the table when it's not there for you. So you can tell in my diction and my tone how important it was for me to really assert myself and to put myself in that position. And I'm standing around 8 guys from Europe, from Mexico, from the United States, from Asia, and they all looked at me and just smiled because they knew he was inappropriate.
Yeah.
But no one speaks up, so you have to speak up for yourself.
That's a very fine example. Thank you, Janice. What about you guys? Moni and Kate?
Mon.
Oh,
You leaned, Moni. You leaned. I saw you.
I think I'm sure we've all had that experience in terms of being in the boardroom. And I think, as Janice has said, that sometimes it's subtle, but it's there. I think of a meeting I had, and I'm not a sports fan, and it was Super Bowl season. And one of the fellows in the room said, oh, well, you don't know about football. You're in the kitchen getting the snacks.
Wow.
And
wow.
So having to, as Janice says, just address that. And it's subtle, but it's there. And I think what is important, or it's been my experience, is oftentimes it's masqueraded as humor. It's presented as a joke because the person that's doing it is doing it with a purpose. They know what they're doing, but it's, oh, I'm only kidding. And it's trying to be playful, but it isn't funny. And so I say that all the time, that sometimes humor can be used as a jab or to undermine someone. Oftentimes in a meeting, I find, it's been my experience, and this has happened with males and females, you're making points. If the same person you make a point and they're countering that point consistently, sometimes that means they're threatened by you. So I've had experiences. It's okay to disagree, but if it's every single point you make, somebody's taking you on, that's to shut you down.
Right.
And so I've had those conversations with men and women to say, is there a reason why, I said the same thing that, Janice said, or that, Kat said, but you're only disagreeing with me. And, you did it 4 times in this meeting, and yesterday it happened and the day before. So I'm just wondering, help me understand why that is. So it's having those courageous conversations, because people bully do not want to be taken on. They want to go for the easy target.
Right.
So somebody knows that they're going to overstep, and you're going to call them out. You're going to tap them on the shoulder, or you're going to address them in a meeting, or you're going to have a one-on-one. They're going to think twice about that, because you're going to confront them, and that they don't want that.
Right.
So I think that it's really important that, healthy disagreement is okay. Conflict is good. There's an old saying, right? If everybody is thinking the same way, then someone isn't thinking. But you can tell when you get that vibe that, you open your mouth and somebody's pouncing on you, and it's usually the same person, then that usually is telling you something. So it's having those courageous conversations, and it goes back to assertiveness again. I'm not comfortable with the way that you spoke to me, or I feel that you're singling me out in meetings, or I feel like you're not being fair to me. It's having the courage and taking the initiative to do it. And I say to young girls especially, it's hard, and you might say it with a shaky voice, but still do it, still say it.
Can I speak to that quickly, Shirley?
Quickly. Yeah.
Just to add, Kate, I definitely want to hear what you have to say, but I want to add on to that. There's a point when something is said, oh gee whiz, something is said, and then it's repeated by a male counterpart, right? And you've said the same thing, and yours may be more elegant, may be understood better. It may be it could be the creme de la creme, but yet a male is going to repeat what you said. It happened to me recently. One of my colleagues did that. And I said, thank you so much for understanding my point of view. And I'm glad you agree with that.
Great.
Seriously. So just you have to cap it off, and just as you were suggesting, we don't have to be combative, but it's a matter of just saying, I'm glad you agree with me. That's it.
So well said.
And it shut him down. He's never done it again.
Yes, that's often the case. The bully, there are so many things that go behind the psyche of a bully. So, Kate, what's your experience or advice?
So because I start my business very early age, so I teach hypnotherapist when I'm very young. So actually, I didn't promote my face. Who am I? Be the teacher. They just need to know. They enroll the class, and then they come in the classroom. Okay. So when the guys come in, and then they look at my face, we go back 50 years ago, and then they are like shocked, And then they look at my face, it's like, huh, are you going to teach me? Are you sure? This is like the eyes talking. So I looking at him, okay, let's see. So then I teach the class. It's like a 5 full day class. And then the first 3 days, he stayed doing this. And then what I said, he didn't make notes, and then stuff like that. And then actually he is like a aero engineer. So for sure he's older than me quite maybe more than 10 years. So and then because I'm talking about psychology stuff, so how you can communicate yourself, and then he start think makes sense. But I think human is very interesting that you pay to the class, and then you walk in the classroom, and then you don't really pay attention for what you are learning. It's very interesting, and I'm just focused to everyone and then make sure that he is like listen to me. And then the first day he start to regret, and then he start to chase back what he learned, and then of course he failed, right? So if you didn't really do the first 2 day, only 5 day class, the fifth day is exam. Come on. So and then he failed, and then he asked for repeat, and he become one of my fans, and then he becomes
Mm.
so respect to me. I think what I as a girl at that time, I think I'm quite young, as a professional that you're standing in front of the people they're older than you, and then men, they're 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 flying aeroplane, and
Mm.
then I'm just stand there, and then let's see. You strong, and now I strong. Now I'm the teacher. You are sitting there, right? So that is so somehow like that. And then I'm so confident. I think it's very important that you feel confident that what you are in that post. So the teacher. If I think some of the people maybe they already like this, and then they are already trying to voice down what you're talking, and then they will like that kind of the aura is coming in front of you, and then all that the power from him that he think that he can override you. At that time I'm proving that you are just a little girl, that how you can teach me. But
Mhm.
you need to prove and confident enough to show them that what is your strength, and then what are you doing there is professional, that you are allow yourself to give yourself a pause that I do it like this. So this is a very interesting for me to have the experience for someone who is so challenging in my classroom. It's
Mhm.
crazy.
Yeah,
And the person is also affecting other students, right? So
Yes.
totally, totally. He can be encouraging other. There will be copycats, right? And people who may have mommy issues, all of us, and girlfriend issues. All of us say, "Okay, I'm going to join in. I'm going to bully some girls too." But I think you all brought out a very important point, and that is, I think humor is very important. Sometimes it's a ping pong match. If they come at you with a ping and you palm it back, not only with humor, but that assertiveness that, hey, you know who you are, I also know who I am.
Mhm.
And if I respect you, I demand nothing less from you. And so let's just, I think respect is a very important piece in this puzzle. If we start off not respecting ourselves, then we are going to dig a lot of little holes for people to fill up with whatever junk. So
Right.
that is also adding on to all your incredible suggestions and experiences. I think that self-respect and agency, yeah, knowing who you are and just slowly building your support system because it's not easy. I think I can say for all of us here, because I know all of you as a friend personally, you probably have such um, a strong. If you guys know this book, The Confidence Code, we talk about our hormonal makeup, right? You have a fair enough dose of testosterone or psychological testosterone to support you. Figurative testosterone to support you, but a lot of girls don't. And in that case, it is really important to go ahead and tell your mentor, tell your best friend. Maybe your best friend knows someone who can help you, right?
Mm.
And just learn to practice in your voice that yin and the yang have both the masculinity and the femininity in your voice, in your body language. But yeah, like I said, we can talk about this forever and ever. I also have a very quick little anecdote. I used to work with a an opera singer who's very famous, who was very famous. I don't think he's alive anymore. He used to sub for Pavarotti. When Pavarotti got sick, this guy would get called in and step on stage the next day. So this one rehearsal, we were rehearsing something. I needed to make a cut because we were doing a scene, and we didn't have, let's say, 16 seconds to get the scene going. We only had 8. So I made a cut, a musical cut. It was really brilliant, quick, but he's never heard that cut. So he stopped me and said, "Wow, this is how you guys do things, huh? Over there." And over there meaning in China, right? And within no time, I said, "Yeah, over there where we are very quick. We're famous for being quick with it. Don't you like?" And he just shut up. He was like, "Okay, yeah, it worked," and he just shut up. And so that kind of a ping pong match, yeah, that kind of wisdom has to come with a lot of practice.
It,
So
yes.
parents, when your kids talk back to you, remember to at least encourage them by applauding their wit. Of course, they have to do it in a respectful manner, right? But I see a lot of parents nowadays just really complaining about their teenagers not complying, not thinking the same way as they do, or they talk back. I always say, if they talk back, listen to how they're talking back. Maybe they're just trying to tell you, I have another viewpoint, and that has to be encouraged. The fact that they even tell you they have a different viewpoint instead of just going to their phones and then, complaining about you to their friends, you should be happy, right? So I extracted a little bit from Dr. Shanice's answers. Effective communication. I'm sure tonight we have heard so many effective points from our three amazing guests. So, the last quick question for all of you: do you have an inspirational book, or movie, or a song that you can share with our audience, or a quote? Maybe start with Kate, and then we'll go backwards and go to Janice and Money.
So I have my slogan. So I make a slogan called Happiness is a choice. Happiness is an attitude. So no one give you happiness if you don't feel it. So it's your choice to be happy or not. And happiness is an attitude, just like you train up yourself, you used to. So no matter what you see, you just like, huh, so that's good, right? So no matter what happens. So you just practice. You practice it and then you have the magic. So that's why I wrote a book called Magic of Happiness and using this code. So I believe everyone, you have your magic. And then in Chinese, magic is called fat. So these two words. The first one is the form fat, is the technique, and then
Mm,
second is the gauge. So it's like the skill. So you
yeah,
need to have the technique, and then you practice, and then you have the magic. So you bling bling, and then you can change whatever you want from a like a downside into the upside. So it depends on how you transform it. So that's the best slogan that maybe the one I love the most. Yeah.
I
I
love it. I love it. Yes, please type it in the comments so the world can see it. Okay. How about you, Shanice?
Sure, sure. Well, of course, my up and coming book, of course, is top of mind for me, which is The Fifth Wave of as a Transformative Leader. It's been a long time coming. Surely, I think you know this. We've been talking about this for a while. Life has been, I've been on these roadways, if you will, on my businesses and what have you. So we're finally getting it done. I'm very thrilled. And it is focusing on the success because we have to keep in mind that success is not absent of challenges. And success is not, and those challenges, you have to be courageous about them. You have to embrace who you are, where you want to go, and actually harness in, bring in all of the attributes that you can bring to the table. So I'd like to think about that as a part of the resilience as well, and that every opportunity allows for you to move forward. I'm just thinking in my mind's eye how you can move forward and embrace all of what you experience in life, whether it be those childhood traumas, whether it be those 20-year-old wandering in the wilderness, whether it be those 30-year-old opportunities. I didn't even think, I said 30 years old. Oh my gosh, that's so old. But now it's thinking about how we can bring all of that together to make this incredible experience of what we call life successful. So it's just a thought, being a transformative leader, the fifth pillar, thinking about that next evolution of life.
And indeed, I was just listening to Diamantis, one of his podcasts or interviews with, I don't remember this Indian fellow's name, but he is responsible for what is going to be a very disruptive technology that enables most, if not 90%, of all African children having access to education for free. But anyway, I mean, the kind of technological disruptions that are coming forth will be unimaginable. So in that sense, Mani, what's your number one inspirational quote for our young women and moms everywhere?
Well, I have to say, it's so inspired by Janice and Kat. I'm just taking it all in. I'm a slow processor. But I would say for me, a quote that I live by is, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And that's by Dr. Wayne Dyer. And I have that up in my office. And it's understanding that everything that happens to us, I really believe, I'm a woman of faith, that there's no accidents in the universe. And even when something doesn't go my way, I went to Catholic school growing up, and the nuns always taught us that rejection is God's protection and it's redirection. So it's, when something doesn't happen in the way that I think I want, it's almost like when the GPS is recalculating, I'm doing that. And then I land up in a better place than I ever could have imagined. So it's having that faith. I would say that probably the favorite quote that my students and probably people that follow me like are, "It's never too late to live the life that you want." I live by that because I restarted. I took a turn at 45 and just recreated my life. And the mindset research is really, really important. Dr. Carol Dweck's book, Mindset, The Psychology of Success, is very helpful in cultivating and sustaining a positive mindset. So understanding that if you're not where you want to be, you're just not there yet. But, with hard work, following your passion, and getting the right mentors and teachers, you'll get there. And I write about that in our Ignite, our best-selling book, Ignite Changemakers, on the power of purpose and Ikigai, and give strategies to do that. So I think all of it is really, finding the right information and being inspired and just going for it. You're gonna get there. You're gonna get there.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. So, would you write your beautiful quotes in the comments for our listeners? And I don't really have one that I can share, but I think that the most important thing for I keep talking about mothers tonight because not because I'm a mom, because I just came from an education conference in Dubai 2 weeks ago, and there were over 130 different speakers and professionals and really change makers, very passionate change makers. And the whole conference ended on my talk, which is the one I moderated, which is Beyond Great. How can we cultivate the love for lifelong learning? And I keep hearing this theme running through our discussion tonight as well, right? Lifelong learning. Every moment is a learning moment, whether it is us being bullied, whether it is ourselves, right? Bullying, we can be bullying ourselves. And often we bully ourselves before other people bully us. Maybe it is the environment, maybe it is families, maybe it's all kinds of different life situations, right? When that happens, we owe it to ourselves. We are obligated to our own happiness and also our own survival, but more so to our happiness, that we take charge, that we assert ourselves, that we clearly find out what our next steps are, and then we will be in the right place at the right time, meeting the right people, and hearing the right advice like you did tonight from these three beautiful, inspirational women. I am so honored and privileged to call my friends. So I would bid everyone a good night or a very good morning for Mani and also Janice, and also the listeners who will be finding us later on through different platforms. Thank you again, my friends. I cannot wait for Janice and also Mani to come to Hong Kong. Okay, and I will be hosting you with great gratitude and pleasure. And until then, we hope that you are doing very well in the next few months. Enjoy your summer holidays, and everyone else, take care, have fun, and remember, you are loved and you are brilliant. Thank you so much again. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye. Thank you for having.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Take
Bye
care.
bye.
Bye bye.